Once you set an annual goal, it can be really hard to change, and you feel like your business is growing and adapting and evolving, and your goals can't grow and adapt and evolve with you because you set them for a whole year and now you have to kind of stick with them. And you could potentially set them and then change them, but then why are we setting annual goals in the first place? Welcome to the Process to Profit podcast, where I dig into the key strategies that build successful service-based businesses. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to scale, I'll share practical techniques to help you overcome overwhelm, boost your income, and fall in love with your business again. Let's get your business working for you. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. And today we're actually starting a whole new series, and it's going to be all about goal setting, and not just about how to set your goals, but how to actually achieve them without having them sort of upend your life, without just adding to the things that are already on your plate. How do you actually incorporate your goals into your daily life, into your daily work, and not have it completely overwhelm you or have them kind of brush under the rug and kind of forget about them until next time when you're ready to review your goals, and then you're like, oh, I did these goals, I set them, and then nothing happened. So today we're starting the series where we're going to be breaking it all down. How do you set your goals, and then how do you actually make them a part of your life going forward? And today we're going to be starting by talking about annual goal setting and why I don't think annual goal setting is actually the right move for most online entrepreneurs. Now, that's not to say it's not the right move for every entrepreneur, but the entrepreneurs that I've worked with, I find, are just so multi-passionate that setting annual goals can be really disheartening and discouraging because you feel like it takes so much to make progress towards them. So we're going to talk about what you can do instead of setting annual goals. Before we dig in, I do want to mention that I am running a brand new workshop in January all about this. How do you actually make progress towards your goals without overburdening yourself, without overwhelming yourself? And this is going to be very hands-on. We're going to only have 10 people in there. And we're going to work through this together as a group, which is why it's 90 minutes. And it's why I'm limiting the group to such a small group, because I'm going to be helping you actually walk through your goals, walk through adding them into your regular schedule, and making sure that you have a plan for actually achieving your goals and not just sort of letting them collect dust on the shelf. So laurenglenn.com/workshop to get more information about that. Today, we're going to be talking about, like I said, annual goal setting and why it doesn't actually work for online entrepreneurs, in my opinion. So let's start by talking about what the problem with annual goal setting is for goal setting. I'm going to have a really hard time with that word in all of these episodes. Goal setting. I'm not from New York, no matter what my accent might try to tell you. So we're going to be talking about why annual goal setting just doesn't work for most entrepreneurs that I know and that I've worked with. And the biggest thing is lack of flexibility. Once you set an annual goal, it's really hard. It can be really hard to change, and you feel like your business is growing and adapting and evolving, and your goals can't grow and adapt and evolve with you because you set them for a whole year and now you have to, kind of stick with them. And you could potentially set them and then change them, but then why are we setting annual goals in the first place? They also can be really overwhelming. So if I set an annual revenue goal of $1 million and I only made $100,000 last year, like that's really overwhelming, and that's a big jump. And then you have to kind of break it down of like, okay, I only made $100,000 last year, I'm going to make $1 million this year. How am I going to do that? And then you sort of start setting these mileposts and these, interim goals and things like that. Whereas you could just set the next goal as opposed to the big goal to make it a lot less overwhelming and a lot less like, well, I'm never going to reach that, so now I'm not even going to try. Or you get all the way to June and you're like, well, I've only made $50,000. There's no way I'm going to meet that $1 million mark. I'm just not even going to bother. I'm not even going to track that towards that goal. It can be really disheartening, and it can be really easy to sort of fall off the wagon. So I think that setting those those big annual goals can be really overwhelming for entrepreneurs, especially when you're just starting out or you're a solopreneur, and it's really hard to focus on that one big goal when you feel like you're just trying to run the business every day. They also don't really take into account that your circumstances might change. Halfway through the year, you might have a sick family member that you then have to start taking care of. And now you can only work 20 hours a week, and now you're not going to make that big goal that you've set. And now there's no way that you can meet that big goal that you've set, but you've set it as an annual goal. So how do you change it? Then what's the, like I said, what's the point of setting annual goals if you're just going to be able to change them? So it's really hard for them to be flexible. It's hard for them to account for the fact that life changes and things happen, so I just find them to be really disconnected between your daily actions and your long-term goals. Like if you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to make $1 million this year, but editing this podcast, how does that actually connect with making $1 million? Now you could, say, well, I'm editing the podcast because I want to get more clients so I can get more clients so I can make more money so that I can make a bigger revenue goal. You can get there, but it just is a lot of degrees of separation. So it's really important, I think, for entrepreneurs to have more tangible, shorter term goals that are easier for them to track and easier for them to meet in a shorter period of time so you don't lose that momentum and feel a lot less overwhelmed by them. And the reality is that our brains actually process short-term versus long-term goals differently. And it seems like long-term goals are just sort of nebulous. They're just sort of somewhere off in the future. And, how far away does 2026 feel right now? It feels super far away. But if you're setting an annual goal, that's what you have to look forward to. So it's a lot easier for our brains to say, I want to meet this goal by March than it is for us to really concentrate on something that we have to do by the end of 2025. If you just say, oh, I have to do this by 2026, it's not as urgent. It's not as on the forefront of your mind. So it's a lot easier to kind of forget about it and kind of push it out of your brain. And by having the annual goals, you can feel really overwhelmed. And don't we already have enough overwhelm in our businesses these days? We already are trying to do everything. We're trying to be on every, social media platform. We're trying to be on video. We're trying to be on audio. There's a lot of things already going on in your business to overwhelm you. So why are we adding one more thing to make it overwhelming? Goals should be motivating, but not overwhelming. And I find that annual goals are just sort of this big looming cloud over a lot of business owners that they're like, it's there. I know it's there. It's in the back of my mind. I'm not thinking about it, but I'm thinking about it. It kind of sits in your brain even when you're not really thinking about it. So by having these big annual goals, it's really hard to kind of grasp, but it's also hard to let go at the same time. And by setting shorter deadlines for your goals, you get that gratification faster, which means that you're much more likely to focus on it and you're much more likely to be excited by it and you're much more likely to make progress towards it and then be able to move on to your next goal. Because you're seeing that progress, you're feeling those endorphins of meeting the goals that you set for yourself. And so by setting shorter term big goals, it's a lot easier to sort of build on the momentum. So now that we've talked about why annual goal setting doesn't necessarily work for most online entrepreneurs, let's talk about what an alternative could be. One way to look at this is in shorter increments. So I mentioned quarterly or 90 days before, and I feel like that's a really good period for online entrepreneurs to start with. Setting 90-day goals. What can I accomplish in 90 days? A component of the 90-day goals is also continuous alignment. And what continuous alignment is where you are regularly assessing and adjusting your goals and actions to stay in sync with how your business evolves, how the world changes, how your needs change, so that your goals are always in line with your current existing circumstances. So by adopting both 90-day goals and continuous alignment, that helps your goals always be relevant to what is going on, what you actually need, and what you actually want to accomplish. And it also keeps the goals manageable. It means that you're not shooting for the stars in an extended period of time. You're choosing a goal that is realistic and manageable in the next 90 days. For example, adding 500 subscribers to your email list. If you've been averaging, 100 new subscribers every month, then upping it a little bit to 500 in 3 months is not that big of a stretch. And that's why it's important to know your metrics too, right? Because it's hard to set goals if you don't know what your current reality is. And it makes it a lot easier to make it a little bit of a stretch without it being totally overwhelming and unrealistic if you know where you're currently at. By using continuous alignment and 90-day goals together, you can set some goals that are actually realistic and align with your current existence. So once you set your 90-day goals, then you want to have regular check-ins with yourself and with your goals. You should review them daily, weekly, and monthly to make sure that you are on track and to make sure that the goals still make sense for you and your business. Or if you achieve a goal, then you can either reevaluate and add a new one, or you can just focus on your other goals. By having just a 90-day turnaround and the flexibility, it gives you that option of sort of readjusting your goals as you go along. And you want to focus on progress, not perfection. You want to make sure that you're continually working towards your goals, but if you're not quite meeting your expectations or it's not going as fast as you want it to, then that is totally okay. As long as you're making some kind of progress, that's what's really important. And you can decide if you want your 90-day goals to be a combination of personal and business or just your business goals. I would recommend combining the two because, especially as business owners, a lot of the times they are very intertwined. They are very much related to each other, and you usually can't accomplish sort of one set of goals without keeping in mind the other set of goals. So I would recommend combining your personal and professional, or your personal and business, but whatever works for you and how your mind works. Okay, so once you decide that you are going to do 90-day goals, then the question becomes, well, how do I actually set them? And I do want to mention that a lot of what I recommend is based on the book, The 12-Week Year. I'll make sure I link it in the show notes. But it's not exactly the way that he recommends it, but it's a good sort of basis. But what I recommend is set 90-day goals. And what you need to do before you set the 90-day goals, which we're actually going to talk about in the next episode, is set the big vision for your life and your business. What do you want your business to look like in 3 to 5 years? What do you want your life to look like in 3 to 5 years? And it doesn't have to be super specific, like I get up on a Monday morning and I go and do this, and then this happens, and then I do this other thing. But you want to have a general understanding of where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, then it's really hard to set goals to get you there. And without an understanding of where you're going, you could end up anywhere, and you could end up with a business that you don't like, and that doesn't match what you want your life to look like. So instead, we want to set that big vision first, which we'll do in the next episode, and then work backwards from there. If I want my life to look like this, what do I actually have to do to get there? For instance, I'm working with a client, Denise, who has a very one-on-one based nutritionist practice. And she actually has a lot of nutritionists now that work with her to help clients with their keto needs, their keto nutrition. And she really wants to help more people. She wants to make a bigger impact. She wants to work with more people, but she is at a limit, at a ceiling for how many one-on-one clients she can take on. So she's in the process of developing a membership so that people can come in and get the help that they need, and she's not so limited to one-on-one clients. But she's also still working with one-on-one clients. It's getting to the point where she's having to say no to people, and she's offering to, have them work with other nutritionists and things like that. But she's having a really hard time turning people away because she wants to help them. That was why she got into business in the first place. And so we've had a lot of conversations together about, well, what do you want your life to look like? Do you want to be more flexible and have this membership where you can help more people and you're not so tied to your desk all the time, where you're working only one-on-one with people, which means that you're at an income ceiling as well. You can only work with so many people because there's only so many hours in the week. So we've had a lot of conversations around cutting back her one-on-one time to focus on building out the membership. And it's been really hard for her. She wants to help people. She doesn't like saying no when people specifically ask to work with her instead of the other nutritionists. And so we've always gone back to that big vision. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your business to look like? And that really helps her to make those decisions, even in the moment of like, how do I want to spend my time this week? What am I prioritizing? What meetings am I actually taking? How much time am I making available for my one-on-one clients? And having that bigger vision of where she wants to go really helps make those decisions a lot easier, because she recognizes now, after working together, that if I keep taking on more and more one-on-one clients, I'm stepping further and further away from the big vision that I actually want for my life and for my business. So by setting that big vision first, it really helps inform and color all of those other goals and decisions after that. We are doing that in the next episode, but I wanted to kind of start with this episode to help people understand where we're going and why, so that then you have a lot more context for the future episodes that we're going to work on. So once you have your big vision figured out, then you can set your 90-day goals. And you can choose to break these into themes if you want to, or focus areas. I don't really do that, but I know that for some people it can really help. For instance, if your bigger goal is to grow your client base, maybe Q1 is focused on lead generation. And so all of your business goals are focused on lead generation specifically. Or you can have focus areas like lead generation is a focus area. So you have one goal towards that. Then you also have like increasing your visibility might be another one. So then you have a specific goal towards that. Maybe being on more podcasts is another goal. And you'd make these more specific. But being on more podcasts would be another goal. It just depends on sort of what that bigger vision looks like for you and your business, and then how you sort of break it down. And again, these are all things that we're actually going to work through together in the workshop in January. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm just not getting it, I just want someone to help me, I will. So you can sign up for that, laurenglenn.com/workshop, and I can actually walk you through this whole process in our group in January. So once you define those specific goals, you want to set 1 to 3 very measurable goals, and not very measurable, very specific goals. And you want them to be specific because you want to know what success looks like. You want to know that you've hit that goal. You want it to be really easy to say, this is what it means when I've actually met this goal. Because if you just say, get more clients, well, if you just get one client, did you meet the goal? Like, you want it to actually be specific so that you understand when the goal has actually been met. And it's funny because this sounds really obvious when you talk about it that way, but when people who aren't used to setting goals set non-measurable goals, then they always get confused and they're like, well, I set this goal, but now I don't know what it actually means. So by making it something measurable, then it's a lot easier to know when you've actually been successful, and that's when you can actually celebrate by having some extra cookies or having a glass of wine, whatever your celebration looks like. I don't know why all my celebrations revolve around food. By setting those goals specifically, now you have something to work towards in your 90 days. And then from there, we're actually going to break the goal down into actionable steps. You're going to outline those specific actions that you need to take, and then you're going to set up those checkpoints for the continuous alignment. So those daily, weekly, and monthly check-ins to say, is this still the goal that I want to work towards? Does it still make sense with whatever's going on in your life and in your business? And what adjustments do I need to make to actually reach this goal in the time period and be successful? Now that we've had kind of a high-level overview of how to set your 90-day goals, now we're going to, in our future episodes, break it down even further. We're going to talk about setting that vision for your business. That will be next week. And then we're going to talk about how you actually create those daily habits that help work towards your larger goals. So how do we actually incorporate working towards our goals every day or every business day? You shouldn't be working every single day. And what does that actually look like? Then we'll talk about the importance of celebrating when you do meet your goals so that you can keep up that momentum. And in our final episode, episode 5, we'll talk about how to actually reflect upon your goals and look backwards so that you can improve your future goal setting and your future achievement of your goals. That's all 5 episodes that are coming in the next couple of weeks for you to be set up for success at the start of the year. If you're interested in signing up or getting more information about the workshop, laurenglenn.com/workshop will give you all the information you need for that January 15th. But goal setting, planning, breaking it down, actually making it happen. And all of the information is going to be there on that site. So remember, don't think annually. Think more 90 days, quarter-ish. And I'm not super specific about the time period. I try to set an end date, but sometimes there's a natural end date of like the end of a specific month or something that really makes sense. So whatever works for you, it doesn't have to be exactly 12 weeks or exactly 90 days. Think about how setting 90-day goals with that continuous alignment and that flexibility might make a big difference in your business as opposed to setting those longer-term goals. Have you tried 90-day goals before? Have you used the 12-week year? What have you been doing in your business? Or do you usually use annual goals and maybe you like it? I don't know. I want to hear from you. I am most active on Threads. You can reach out to me there at Lauren G Consulting, and I would love to hear from you and know how things are going for you. All right, that's it for today, and I look forward to talking to you again next week all about creating that big picture vision for your life and your business. And I will talk to you soon.